Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. So, what a big day in the markets. US and China signed not really a trade deal, but more of a, let's say, friendly ceasefire, if you want to call it that way. And look, I think it was very positive that the first meeting in Switzerland was 12 hours or 10 hours, and then it was extended for the second day. So basically, if this was really a bad meeting, meaning no party really wanted to do anything, this would have lasted 2 hours. And basically, each one would have gone its own way. As I've mentioned before, if you want to make China do certain things, now it's the time, as they've been facing deflation for a very long time, and they were looking eerily similar to Japan, late 80s, early 90s. Now we need to wait what's going to come from it. People were saying, oh, the other deal took 18 months to sign. Exactly. So that means that a new deal will take much less time, because probably it will need to have the old deal with some tweaks and then add a few things around intellectual property theft, opening of the Chinese market, the same way that it's open for the Chinese in the US. So things shouldn't be as difficult as they were in the past, in that sense. Now, this is all very funny because all the economists predicting the Great Depression 2.0, and Peter Schiff was predicting the end of the world, and all of these kind of things now are eating crow. So what I was saying here, and you guys are my witnesses, is this is a strategic move that has been announced during the campaign. It's going to be done. I had zero doubt that it was going to be pushed. And now we cannot say if it's going to be a success or a failure. You have to wait and see. And even now, as everybody's on the other side of the camp, which is very bullish, I'm saying the same thing. We need to see the deals and if it's covering the things that they wanted. I think Panama Canal will be involved in this. I think TikTok will be involved in this. I think a lot of things will be involved. It's not going to be an easy deal because China has leverage. It's not like let's say Taiwan, which is highly dependent on US protection, if you will, more than actual the economy. So that one is an easier one. The UK is an easier one. The Chinese is not. So also the people that are now full bullish on the other side, they need to relax a bit. Okay, so this was always my point. People who are calling this a complete disaster are people who are saying, oh, my team is losing in the first quarter of the game, so the game is lost. No, you have 3 other quarters to play. People that are now saying this is the most wonderful thing, you're at halftime. You need to play the rest of the game. See the point? It's the same. I'm the only one that is consistent on this. So when I see Peter Schiff today on Twitter saying, oh, the US surrendered to China. How did they surrender? Have they signed anything? Is it over? Where is the surrendering? There was 20% tariffs and now there's 30% tariffs at this moment. And the Chinese have 10% tariffs. So 10 one side, 30 the other, plus the initial 20. But they are talking, they are negotiating, they're in the middle of the game. The game is at halftime. It's like, sorry for the Atlanta fans, the Falcon fans. The Falcons went to, they were winning 20-3 versus the Patriots, and then they lost. So why don't you tell them that the game was over? Let's see what they say to you. I mean, I don't know. This is the problem. People are very emotional about these things. No, you have to wait and see. What is the goal here? My view. And I've said this before. The US grows, if things are fairly stable, US grows at around 2.4, 2.8% without much effort. If the trade deficit, which is 1.2 trillion, is cut in half, that's 2% extra GDP. But let's say it's not cut in half. Let's say it's cut by a third. So it's not 2%, it's maybe 1.7%, whatever. Then you put in the tax bill and the deregulation. And all of a sudden, you can have the US economy growing at 4.5%, 5%. It's not very far off. It's not so impossible. I think that is the plan, to go and say the US economy is growing at 5, 6% per year. The debt is growing at 2% or 2.5% or 3%, but we are growing at 6 at this rate. In I don't know, in 10 years, the debt is cut, relatively speaking, to growth 30%. That's, I think, the idea of the message, because the debt as it is not payable. It's not going to be paid. Because even if you repay the debt, because we live in a debt-based system, you're sucking so much money out of the market that the assets will come down as the debt is disappearing. Which means the remaining debt, which is collateralized for the most part with the assets that there is here, will be impacted and will cause it will cause massive problems, which means more money printing will come, etc. The way the system is made in order to ensure that debt always grows, which by itself is not a big problem. So, for example, when people say $45 trillion debt, is this a problem? Well, it depends on what. Well, if your GDP is 100 trillion, it's not a big problem. So it depends what you're talking about. You have to look at the two sides. You can have a business with $10 billion in debt, and you can have another business with $1 million in debt. And the 10 billion one can be much better if it has, just an example, 30 billion in revenue. And the other business in 1 million in debt can be way worse if their revenue is 100K. So these things work together. And it's important not to throw the rockets either when you want things to come down or when you want things to go up. So basically all the stock market indices exploded. Crypto not so much, but it's also been moving like crazy. And crypto is following the liquidity cycle, and then the narratives come. So as I've said before, liquidity, which is part of the fundamentals, leads. Then price happens, and then narrative follows. That's it. And I have to say something, and this is not going to make me very popular, but I will say it. Financial conditions are tightening again. Yields are going up, the dollar is going up, and oil is going up. This is all tightening. But don't forget, there's a 100-day delay. So this may cause a correction in Bitcoin and crypto, and probably stocks, somewhere around late July, August, around that time period. Now I have to say this, like caps lock, imagine caps lock. If these conditions continue to tighten, if the dollar goes lower, if yields come down, if oil prices remain where they are more or less, then we're fine. Then liquidity and financial conditions are tailwinds. Okay? If they continue the path they are now, they will be headwinds. You hear the magic word, if, because I already know that if this thing doesn't materialize because the financial conditions is up, there's going to be a smart ass in my comment section saying, you said that in August there's going to, listen. Financial conditions tightened in Q4 2024 and even the first half of January. Yields went up, dollar went up, oil went up. Oil was at $80+ when Trump came in. Then prices came down with around a 100-day lag, so 100 days after. Then I was saying, as people were predicting the Great Depression, and they were predicting Bitcoin 60K and Bitcoin 30K, and Benjamin Cowan was saying Ethereum is going to go to $500 and all this kind of crap, I said, no, liquidity is rising, financial conditions are easing very quickly, yields were coming down very rapidly, The dollar was coming down very rapidly and oil was coming down very rapidly. But don't forget, you have a lag. It manifests later, around 100 days later, which is now. So now we are taking the benefits of those financial conditions. But the same financial conditions are now tightening again, just like in Q4 2024. However, it has been a very short time period, so it's very hard to say if this is going to create a correction in July, August or not. I don't know. You have to wait and see. It depends on how things move. This is not... And the correction can be 10%, 15%, 20%, something like that. I mean, even 2017, I told you before, 2017, the golden age of crypto, the golden year of crypto, Bitcoin had 30% plus corrections. So these are normal. They happen during the bull market. So keep that in mind. Now we are in the phase of the cycle. I think we're going to now play catch up to the global M2 and to the financial conditions of the first quarter of 2025, which were much better. That's why we should see the price now. That doesn't mean green candles every single day, and you're gonna have pullbacks. But I think what you're gonna start noticing, in my view, is that the pullbacks are quite aggressive, but quite short. So, for example, you can have a pullback. You can see Bitcoin down 4% in the morning, and in the afternoon is down 0.5%. So basically, instead of taking 3-4 days to eat it up, it takes half a day. So it's much faster, but they're much faster to get bought up, and they're much faster to happen, and they're quite deeper than your typical grinding down kind of market. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, I think a lot of guys are now deleting things on Twitter. Jim Cramer that wrote, "This Monday can be Black Monday 1987." That was the bottom, of course. It's Jim Cramer. What else? Ran Nuna from Crypto Banter made a couple of videos completely annihilating Ethereum, saying there was absolutely no reason whatsoever to ever hold Ethereum, and that he was selling the remaining of his Ethereum. So according to him, he has no ETH left. As soon as he did those two videos, Ethereum went up non-stop. Now, the reason why I'm flagging this many times is because I already know what he's going to do. He's going to pretend that he never sold Ethereum, and he always believed in it. There was just, he was waiting for the Pectra upgrade, whatever he's going to come up with when Ethereum is going very high. He will be trying to glue himself into Ethereum. No doubt in my mind. So be careful with that, because that's how that guy rolls. Now, in terms of targets, because I hear this question. Look, I've had the same target since 2023. Bitcoin somewhere between 242,000 to 276,000, and Ethereum between 25 to 29,000. Now, I've experienced with Bitcoin, it's very funny. I've experienced both cases. So I disclosed the targets that I had in June 2023, like 2 weeks after I started the channel. And at the time, we just came out of a brutal bear market, and basically Bitcoin was in that watching paint dry phases during the recovery year, which is like, you have to imagine Bitcoin sandwiched between plus minus 1,000 for like 4 months, right? Something brutal to watch. Like no volatility, like just clamped down in those levels. So Bitcoin was around, 21, 22,000, maybe something like that. And people said, this guy is an idiot, this guy is a moon boy, he's crazy, this guy is ultra bullish, he's a complete clown. Then January 2024 came. Yeah, your price target is quite sensible. I can see that happening. And now I'm being told that my price target is too bearish because I'm failing to see this, and that. So it's quite funny that my price target never changed, but the reaction to it has gone through all the phases. I was a moon boy crazy guy, followed by, you sound reasonable, followed by, you're a bearish idiot. So I've got the three covered with the same price. It's quite amazing. This is a good case study how the psychology of markets work. Ethereum was the same thing. You're a complete moon boy, an idiot. Then Ethereum went above 4,000. I can see 25,000. I can see 25,000. Then of course we had this horrible sell-off, a little bit due to the Bybit hack, but also because I have the feeling that a lot of players have been accumulating Ethereum a lot for the upcoming tokenization efforts that are going to happen. That's my feeling. We'll see if that happens or not. But just check what BlackRock is doing with buybacking ETH, etc. But it's all public. Just out there, just check it. Meeting with the SEC and the crypto task force to discuss tokenization as an urgent thing, blah, blah, blah. These kind of things. So pay attention. That's all I'm saying. And you see the whales, right? Accumulating $400 million in 3 days, stuff like that. But that's fine. So Ethereum, I went from I was a moon boy idiot to it sounds kind of reasonable when Ethereum was around 4,200. It's a reasonable price, but then, of course, with the big sell-off, I went back to being an idiot moon boy. So I went like this. And I get the feeling that in a few months, I'm going to be called an idiot bearish, because basically BlackRock will tokenize the world and put it on Ethereum, and I cannot see it, how beneficial that's going to be, and I'm a complete buffoon. So I hope for that day, for the day that people call me an idiot for being too bearish on Ethereum. It's going to be a very good sign. And for now, we keep on following that liquidity. That's global M2. I want to point out something. A lot of people are starting to pay attention to that chart, which tells me at some point later in the cycle, I believe, will stop working. Oh, there's something interesting. If Bitcoin repeats the 4-year cycle, the top should be October 2025. If you go back last year, what was the consensus trade? Left translated cycle. Remember that? Now, it's right translated cycle. So the cycle will be postponed into 2026. And I know the arguments. ISM is still below 50. Liquidity has been postponed over this couple of months with also the business cycle plus the tariff corrections that came kind of abruptly and early. The Fed is still not printing as active. It started printing, but not as active as people hoped for. Blah, blah. I know the narratives. The tax bill is going to come. The deregulation is going to come. I can make the case perfectly for the 2026. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Please keep that in mind. I'm not disproving that. What I'm saying is I'm starting to see too much consensus on that. And nobody is believing in the 4-year cycle anymore. Maybe it's going to repeat. Nobody's believing in it. So when everybody was talking about left translated left, I said, no way. Like everybody's positioned for the same thing. There's no way it's going to happen. Because we need to catch, the market needs to catch you off guard. It cannot catch, show me a market. What was happening with the tariffs? Extreme fear, everybody's down. Consensus is down, 0, 0, 0. It's going down and down. Sell, boom, boom. What was the best decision? Buy. What happens in the opposite? Same thing. Now, what I'm saying is easier said than done. Because you saw how the bears were noisy during this sell-off. The bulls during euphoria are 100 times noisier. Like they bombard you so much with positive things and so much stories and explanations why this time is different and this time you're going to go forever, that you start to not be able to see the reality because you start to convince yourself of it, and then the green candles are giving dopamine to your brain, which makes it very hard to deal with it. And I've also heard this theory, so I'm going to put it out there because it's possible that the Bitcoin ETFs and the strategic reserves basically it was like the gold ETF, in which it took like 1 or 2 years to ramp up, but then you had like an 8-year bull market. So what I've been hearing is the super cycle will not be extraordinary explosion like a hockey stick, in the final year. It's going to be fast but more sustained move into 2030. So basically a 7-8 year bull market instead of a 4-year bull market. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. That's why I will never sell 100% of my crypto. I will always leave 15-20% in case I'm wrong and we don't have a bear market, because I've got in so early that I will do fine anyways. But if we do have a bear market, I'm completely protected. So that's my risk management. Should you copy it? Should no? It's up to you. Your money is your decision. I'm just saying how I'm thinking about it. Because even if we have a bull market that goes into 2030, and by the way, get ready for narratives like that, we're going to have corrections along the way. So I don't need to panic. There's going to be 35% corrections in Bitcoin, which is going to mean 80-85% corrections in altcoins. And if I sold 80% at massive profits, I have a lot of cash to deploy if that's the case. In my expectation, the next bear market, Bitcoin will no longer go down 75%. I think it will go down somewhere between 50 and 60%, maybe with a wick down because I don't know what's going to be the bottom. I can guess, probably Michael Saylor blowing up, if I had to guess. But by that time, the market may have grown so much that it can actually absorb it quite well. And then there's going to be the stories, right? If Michael Saylor blows up, then all those companies will blow up. There's going to be huge contagion. The same story with FTX. FTX went bankrupt, so KuCoin is next, and Kraken, and Binance is next, and then nothing happened. But we are very far away from it, okay? So don't get confused. But it's important to think. You have to put yourself in the future, in that environment of complete craziness. You're going to have coins going up 40% a day. And you're gonna go on Twitter and you're gonna see all these theories and all these ratios and all these connections and all these. Oh, the price of lumber is down 3%, so this is gonna go up, and the moon is in that shape in the sky, and every time the moon is there, this is gonna, you're gonna get all of this kind of stuff. Okay. And so it's important to put yourself to visualize your future so you can have a strategy on how to act. Because what you don't want to do is have the golden ticket in your hands and then look back 3 years in the future and say, I knew it. I knew I should have sold nothing. And now my portfolio is down 90%. Keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Thank you very much for your support, guys. Don't forget, like and subscribe. It's the only thing that I ask. Call me an idiot. Call me a friend. Up to you. And I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is CPI day. Let's see what happens. I get the feeling it's going to be better than expected again. Thank you very much, guys. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.